What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and I want to do a quick recap on the fight last night between Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. Now, this fight was on the undercard of Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao, and in my opinion, I thought it was the best fight on the card, even though it only lasted 7 rounds. Okay, Tszyu did not come out of his corner after the 7th round, but it was a lot of back and forth. And in my opinion, I thought Sebastian Fundora clearly won the first 4 rounds, and Tszyu came back in the last three. But even though he started to look like he started gaining some momentum, he had enough, and he did not come out of his corner in the 7th round. Now, I want to start off by saying Sebastian Fundora improved to me. I noticed a lot of things that he was doing in this fight that I didn't see him do in previous fights. He has always been a high volume puncher. Having being 6'5" and fighting at 154, having the reach and everything. But this was the first time I really seen him do well with range. He's always had those long arms, but the way he used it, his tactics and his distance, and was really on point for this fight. So he improved. I mean, I think a lot of people right now are talking about Tszyu, whether or not he's always been overrated. Even Turkey Al-Sheikh has come out. Everybody's kind of kicking him while he's down. Keith Thurman. I heard a few interviews with boxers, and I'm seeing what the fans are saying. And the fans are going over the place. It's like, oh, he's done. He's damaged. Murtazaliev destroyed him. Sebastian Fedoras destroyed him in the first fight. He's never going to be the same again. And I get it. I mean, a lot of people thought he was overrated to begin with. Back when he was undefeated, a lot of people thought he was overrated then. But I don't want to just take away from Fundora's performance. He actually did improve in this fight, from what I've seen, and he did a great job. I think Tszyu, on the other hand, I think Tszyu has also improved, and what I mean by that is, before when Tszyu used to pressure fighters, he didn't move his upper body as much. He didn't have as much head movement. Him leaning and slipping a lot of all the traffic that Fundora was throwing at him. He was doing a better job than he was doing in the first fight. The problem is he ran into a left hand on his way in. I think these guys traded and threw at the same time. Tszyu threw like a sweeping left hook. And the problem with that hook, even though it connected, it was a slap. He didn't really hit him with the knuckles. All right. And Fundora, on the other hand, he drew a shorter left hand that caught Tszyu perfectly on the left side of his face, bruising his face. Tszyu went down. This was in the very first round. And it changed everything because Tszyu, at least for the most of that, the remainder of that round and the few rounds after, he was still trying to battle Fundora, who was being way more aggressive in this fight. You got to understand, too, even though I was wrong with this pick, I picked Tszyu. I thought, from what I seen him do in the first couple of rounds in the Fundora fight, I said, I'm going to go with Tim because I think Tim is going to catch him, but I think he's going to be more intelligent in this fight, which he was, well, appeared to be. But when he got caught, it changed everything. And even though he started to gain some momentum, and it looked like he started to come back after the 4th round, it just wasn't enough. He already accumulated a lot of damage. He got knocked down in the first, but from the second and even the 3rd round, he was taking a lot of punishments. There was moments in those rounds where his back was against the ropes. He was trying to survive, trading with Fundora, and Fundora was getting the better of the exchanges. Even though Tszyu didn't go down, you can tell that some of those punches was really badly hurting him. And he actually was on defense for the majority of those 3-4 rounds. Tszyu started to come back. I think the 5th round was the first round I gave him. I gave him the 6th and the 7th. But even those rounds were like, neck and neck. Like, I edged it for Tszyu, but it seems like the rounds 1 to 4 was clear Fundora for me, I think Tszyu started to come back because Fundora didn't have the same kind of power and pop in his flurries and his punches and everything. So at that point, Tszyu started to press forward, and it seemed like he started to catch a second win, but he was still taking damage in between. And even though in the 7th round, where he had more success closing out that round, he was taking some punishment. And I called it when he went back to his corner in the after the seventh round. I was like, "Yo, Tim doesn't look good." You know, when he sat down on that stool and the way he looked up at the ref who came over to check in on him, um, I think he just didn't look. He looked up at the ref like he saw a ghost. And to be honest, I wasn't too surprised he didn't come out of his corner. I thought he was going to say on camera, "I quit," but it looked like at some point, even though the cameras was on him, at some point he just said he had enough, or his corner said he had enough, and it is what it is. It was a wrap after that. But overall, Fundora improved as a fighter. Tim was doing better work. I mean, defensively, it's weird because I'd never seen him Tszyu move that much. Upper body movement, slipping. Um, he usually comes with pressure, but he usually straight in. Whereas this fight, he was leaning back, he was weaving through all the traffic, he was getting some good counters in, but he had an issue with range the entire time. A lot of those punches that connected on Fundora, they didn't land as flush as they did in that first fight, those first couple of rounds. And that was the difference in this fight. Yes, he busted Fundora up. Fundora did bleed a little bit from his nose, but the damage that Fundora accumulated in this fight was nowhere near the amount of damage he accumulated in the first fight with Tszyu, because that was just a straight up war. They were both more strategic, but Fundora was just better. I mean, especially like the first 2 or 3 rounds. Fundora and the amount of jabs that was coming from every single type of jab. I mean, they were coming in from every direction. I said on the live, it looked like Sebastian Fundora had 8 hands. He looked like an octopus because the punches was coming from every angle, and Tim was trying his best to move and duck and dodge a lot of these punches. I mean, he was leaning over, he was bending out the way, he was doing everything, ducking and weaving these punches, but he would get caught. And whenever he got trapped, he would try to fight his way out. But when he was trying to fight his way out, Sebastian Fundora was getting the better of the exchanges. Mentally, I do think Tim Tszyu is definitely, I don't want to say he's broken, but mentally, he is not the same fighter that he was. Ability wise, I still think he can do what he's done and maybe even better. But mentally, once he started getting hit, it was a different, the armor has been broken. It's been broken. Like, as far as the punch resistance, I mean, he can take a shot, and he has the heart, but I saw in his eyes when he stopped what I saw in his eyes when Murtazalia had him down like by the third or fourth time. I just saw the look on his face. It just looked like he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it mentally. All the confidence he had, he seemed like he was destructive. It seemed like even though he was dropped in the first round in the Terrell Cashapp fight, in a fight early in his career, those were flash knockdowns. He got back up and did his thing. But in this fight, it just seemed like he was, he was just getting beat down. He was getting broken in the ring on real time. And it was just too much for him, and officially now, Tim Tszyu has been stopped by the 2 fighters that he lost to. The first one, yeah, because of the cut and everything like that. But Fundora stopped him or made him quit on the stool in a rematch. And Murtazalia, we already know what he did to him in their fight. So I don't think, a lot of people say Tim Tszyu should retire. I don't think he should retire. But if he does not understand that he can't just walk through these guys anymore, that he can get stopped, he's not as durable, he's not this tough guy that he thought he was. He has to box to win fights. He has to box his way to a win. He can't look at these fights, or he can't move forward think that he's going to just overpower guys like he did against Tony Harrison, or Brian Mendoza. Those days are over. And if he's going to continue fighting at a high level, he has to actually box to a knockout. Not saying he wasn't doing that here, but I think he could have done some things better. In my personal opinion, after rewatching the fight, Fundora did slow down after the 4th round. He slowed down. And if Tim actually worked towards the body earlier, instead of headhunting, as I called on a live, I was like, Tim is doing a little bit too much headhunting. You know, send some of those right hands to the body of Fundora, which I thought he was going to do. This is what I said on the breakdown. He was doing it in the first fight, but in this fight, he was strictly headhunting. And I think that was a crucial mistake because if he had attacked the body a little bit more, he would have slowed down Fundora a little bit more than what he did. Fundora slowed down on his own based on just him just throwing high volume, throwing a high amount of punches in those early rounds. So he did slow down, and he didn't seem like he had the same pop that he did in the earlier rounds. But if Tszyu attacked the body a little bit more, I think he could have did a little bit better in this fight. He might have still lost. He lost. It is what it is. But when I'm looking at strategically, I think Tszyu should have, him and his team should have worked the body early to get Fundora to slow down. We know he's high volume. We know he has great cardio. We know he's going to, in the 12th round, if it goes there, he's still going to be throwing a lot of punches. What you want to do is chop that tree down. And I think they did. That's the one thing I think they failed at doing in this fight. And I think they just went too early with the headhunting again. And I think that was a crucial mistake. Fundora did everything right to me. I mean, I really don't have any complaints as far as what he was doing years back, and getting these. I think it was a Sergio Garcia tough fight with him. Erickson Lupin tough fight. He's fought some good fighters, and he struggled in a few fights and everything. Brian Mendoza knockout. But from what I've seen, he's going to be a difficult fight moving forward because he has the length. He knows how to use it. He's controlling range much better. And his timing is getting better, man. He's turning out to be a really good counterpuncher. And I think that makes him very dangerous because he's still strong and at that height. He doesn't appear to be a drained fighter at 154. He's a little bit of an anomaly, you know what I mean, with his size and the fact that he can still be that physical and be that strong at this division. All right, so as far as moving forward, all I want is what I wanted before. When it comes to Tszyu, I think he needs to work his way back up. When it comes to Fundora, I mean, he is a champion. I want to see some, let's get some unification. I want to see one of these guys with Bakra and Murtazaliev. I want to see it happen. I want to see Jamel Charlo fight. I would love to see Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman's doing a lot of talking. I think Keith Thurman, he was at the event. I think Keith Thurman seems to be the guy that's going to get a shot. It seems to be realistic. He's PBC. Fundora's PBC. It seems like that's going to be the most realistic shot here. But Fundora's improving. And, the Fundora that everybody seemed to want a couple fights ago looks like an improved version of himself. And it's not going to be as easy. And that's for anybody. That's for Spence. That's if Jamel Charlo comes back. That's for Keith Thurman, and some of the other champions, Virgil Ortiz, whoever. I know Virgil Ortiz is interim for one of his titles. There's a lot of options out there for 54. Xander Zayas, he's going to be fighting this weekend. There's a lot of guys out there, but Fundora seems to be improving. And I wanted to state that, okay, to Tszyu, definitely not the guy that a lot of us thought he was, but let's give Fundora his credit too. He's improving. So I wanted to make that clear. That's my recap. Really good fight, a lot of action. Most of the fights were boring yesterday. 90% of them were. But this fight was one of the decent fights that was on all three cards yesterday. And anyway, I'm out of here. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up for me if you support me. Share the video. Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, and all that. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.